Hey folks, Curtis Stone here. Today we are carrying on our video series where we look at all the US states and Canadian provinces that would, you know, be considered for homesteading. And we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today we are looking at the state of Connecticut. Not typically a place that people go to homestead. However, it is a place that people go to escape the city of New York. Connecticut, Rhode Island, these kind of places for me have always been kind of like a drive-by state on your way to New York City. And people, it's kind of like, people that get places in the Hamptons in New York or upstate New York, Western New York, want to get out of the city, but they have a second place outside of the city. That's what Connecticut often is, at least in my experience. That's what I've seen. So it's not typically a place that you go to homestead, though there are homesteaders there, and it is quite beautiful. The climate's beautiful. I've been along many of these beaches in Connecticut like late in the fall, and you get these amazing Indian summers in Connecticut because of this microclimate on the coast here, and also the fact that Long Island protects most of the shoreline of Connecticut from intense wind and intense weather. So it is a beautiful state. It's that semi-temperate climate. There's lots of big deciduous trees here. It's very green. It's beautiful. But just like any other place, we don't want to be in the major cities. We don't want to be anywhere near New York City. This is just coming down to safety, proverbial shit hits the fan scenario. You don't want to be along any of the major highways. You don't want to be anywhere near any of these tiny towns, but you can find lots of beautiful rural gems in these green areas, albeit they are close to these major metropolitan areas. And so, as we always do when we go through this, is we just throw down our no-go zones as far as this 50-mile radius around the major metropolitan areas. Again, it's not cut and dry. You might find a decent homestead just outside of Bridgeport and was it Stafford and places like this? Is it Stafford? What is that? Yeah, it's Stratford and whatnot. You might find places in that. And so again, it's not cut and dry. It's just food for thought. We generally try to avoid major metropolitan areas, and this whole river valley coming through Connecticut that feeds out into the ocean makes its way to New York City because that's where the traffic goes. And so I would just say basically avoid this entire area here in Connecticut when in consideration to homesteading, in consideration to prepping and whatnot. Having said that, I wouldn't want to live anywhere near New York City in terms of geopolitics and things like that. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near New York City. That's just me. But the deal with this video series is we're looking at every state, and so we're gonna have considerations for each one. But I would say just broadly, yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near within like hundreds of miles of New York City. New York might be kind of cool to visit every now and then, though I think these days it's so woke and so flooded with the massive invasion that's happening in the United States that I don't even think New York is what it used to be. So that is food for thought there. But okay, so let's avoid these areas here. Let's look at some good areas in the state of Connecticut. They're all going to be along the outskirts of the state. And, we've got lots of green. There's these quaint, beautiful little small towns in here. We're out of the major ones. But at the same time, if you had to drive down to any of these other major areas, Hartford and whatnot, you can do that. It's not that big of a commute. The state is fairly small geographically. And so all these areas are going to be kind of on the outskirts. We're getting a little close to Providence, Rhode Island, which is a fairly big city too. But you can be tucked away in these corners of the province. So this, or the state. So this, just when you look at the flora and fauna, the space, the water, the topography, it's all very beautiful. Connecticut is a beautiful state. It's why a lot of New Yorkers, wealthy New Yorkers, have kind of cottages and such in Connecticut. Now that might also mean, and I'm not saying it is, you tell me in the comments if you're from Connecticut, go ahead and chime in. As I say, when I do these, I'm speaking very broadly, and I'm going to miss details, and I'm going to, you're going to be like, oh, Connecticut's not like this, and then I live here, blah, blah, blah. Great. You tell me. But what you have is if you have this sort of, what do they call it? There's a term for communities that aren't really communities because they're just vacation homes. That means that you don't have real community. If a large portion of the people in your area here are just, weekenders or summer visitors, they're not really rooted in the community. And that can actually not be a great thing, because if people aren't rooted in the community, they're not invested in the community, they have no reason to know you, they have no reason to share resources with you, and form the basis of a community that relies on needs and benefits. And that's a big part of actually forming community. And so you might lack that in Connecticut. Food for thought. Not saying that you do, but that might be something that you observe. So here's we've got a 25 acres here. This is up in the northwestern corner of the state. When we select these, this is all selected at random. These aren't, well, they're not selected at random. We look for them, but these properties aren't for sale. We go and look on the map and say, hey, this is a cool property that could be an example of what a nice homestead could look like in Connecticut. And so if that's the case here, we've got this amazing property on the lake, and we've got a private access in. And so there's no visibility from the road whatsoever. It's tucked away in the forest. Nobody would even know you were here. There's not much going on this property, except there's a really big house with a nice pond, and it looks like there's multiple structures. But this home isn't necessarily a farming or homesteading home, but the property itself has the hallmarks of what make a great homestead. So we've got good, easy access in, but it's sheltered by trees, which is really nice, and there's a big offset from the road, so there's no visibility from the road. So in a shit hits the fan scenario, people aren't going to be just passing by and seeing your place and thinking, what resources can I extract from there? They won't even see you. So that's a really good thing. Well, what's going on here is kind of some pretty cool landscaping over there. But we've got an open landing, tons of fields that could be used for growing, raising animals, agroforestry, silvopasture, you name it. All the great stuff you can learn about in regenerative agriculture you've got here. We've also got some nice topography, and we've got an slightly east southeast slope. We're surrounded by trees. I mean, this place is amazing. You've got access to the lake. I imagine a property like this in Connecticut would be worth millions, but it has all the hallmarks of what make a good homestead. We've got all the stuff we need for homesteading. Easily, we can do most of it in this area. I say 5 acres is all you need for a homestead, for everything. We might not have exactly that here, but we are. We're right on there, 6 acres. And then if you got the rest in trees, then that's great. So that's an awesome homestead, total banger. Probably really expensive, but that's just Connecticut in general. So we got 150 plus acres here, down on the kind of central west in the state. We're pretty tucked away too, and really cool property here. Wow, I mean, this is, it's a mansion with a tennis court, a pool, a guest suite, a massive pond, beautiful landscaping, Not a lot of homesteading happening here, and I suspect that's kind of what Connecticut is it's vacation homes for rich people that from New York City who have offices down in Wall Street and things like that. This is a mansion. But, you know, again, we look at every state and province objectively, so it is what it is. But, you know, if you just look around at the neighbors here, yeah, there's a bit of farming there, some fields. Yeah, there's some stuff going on. But this would be a dream homestead. It's at the end of a road. Let's just move this thing out of the way. Let's get the roads in there. There we go. Okay, it's not the end, but it's got a really nice private access off that road. You're surrounded by trees for privacy. You've got fields, ponds, multiple ponds. Wow, a number of ponds. So you've got multiple sources of water. You've got tons of wild forest around you. You've got pastures, good access, good zones of use. You could build anything off this driveway if you wanted to add more infrastructure to a homestead like this. You've got division where you could have, you know, you've already got them really, rental suites. And a driveway like this is really good because it's nice and well maintained. It's pavement or concrete, you can tell. But you could add things on this. So, you know, pass a solar greenhouse here or shop here, so on and so forth. A lot of that infrastructure is already in here in this main sort of mansion area. You've probably got the groundskeeper suite here, right? Tennis court. This property is amazing. It's like a park, essentially. But, you know, that's a really ideal looking homestead in Connecticut. And then we'll take a look at one more for 25 acres up in the northeast quadrant. And look at this, totally private, totally tucked away at the end of a dead end road in a little community. There's a school. You know, you're off the interstate, but you're not directly off the interstate. So nobody's actually going to just drive by your property. Nobody's coming in here. You know, if they're on the interstate, they can exit at 190 and then they could, you know, make a right at the intersection here and somehow end up at your property. But it's highly unlikely because they're not going to see it. That's the key, is not being seen. You don't want to be visible from a road. And you know, with the topography here, you probably could hear the highway at nighttime when things kind of quiet down. But I don't think it would be I don't think it would be a major threat as far as that's concerned. But, you know, a property like this, beautiful in the forest, you got some area to work with, but you really got to carve out more of your homestead. But that's easy to do. You just come up the hill here and get in here and clear a bit more land around the main home area. So you'd have to put in a bit more driveway for that access, clear some trees, but hey, that's a lot of firewood that you could use for many, many years. And, you know, a property like this is so cool because you've just got so much forest around you, and that privacy would be pretty incredible. So yeah, that's some considerations for the state of Connecticut, folks. If you guys like this series, check out the link that I have in the show notes. It'll take you to a web class where I'll show you some tips and tricks on how to use Google Earth and do these kinds of assessments yourself. And if you're interested in that, you can also check out our Homestead Accelerator program where we list properties every single week that are available in North America. And even if you're not looking, you can watch these videos and learn a lot from just the process over and over again. All right, folks, let me know where you want me to go next in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.